Hello, my name is Mallory Miette. This is episode 11 of Q&A Live. I'm a speech pathologist, infant feeding specialist, craniosacral therapist, and I am here to answer your questions. I will be posting a flash sale code at the end. And so that is what that is about for products on my website. If you have any questions as you join, please drop them in the box. Today we're going to talk about open mouth posture. Posted about a term that's used called milk drunk, what that means for baby. I have a post specifically on that on YouTube as well if you want to dig in deeper. But this is specifically responding to a comment that was made, and it was that as a parent, you feel overwhelmed because you hear so many different opinions from different people. And nasal breathing isn't an opinion of mine. It's a fact. Our bodies were made to breathe through the nose. The tongue is made to form the palate. That is how we are designed. There's your adenoids in your airway space, followed by the tonsils. So the adenoids take the biggest hit to filter air, and then the tonsils are supposed to take the rest of it before you breathe in what you're supposed to breathe in. The tongue is supposed to be sitting on the palate space in order to regulate the nervous system, to set the palate up for appropriate structure development, because the roof of your mouth is the floor of your nose. And so if we don't have a nice wide palate, then we have a high narrow palate, and that is what creates obstruction in our nasal passageway. So now we're struggling with breathing through the nose, and so we start to breathe through the mouth. But we can change that if we start educating parents correctly on nasal breathing from infancy. You can change the path of growth in the mouth. So tonsillectomies and adenoidectomies, that's not normal. That's not supposed to happen. But that was created. A surgery was created in order to support this sort of change in our society from nasal breathing to mouth breathing. And because the air is not being filtered appropriately, then the tonsils are getting swollen, the whole airway space is getting messed up, and now we need them removed. And that's not supposed to happen. And so having a provider tell you, your baby can breathe through their mouth. It's normal for babies to breathe through their mouth. It's absolutely not normal. It's a secondary mechanism that is given to us in case the nose is blocked for some reason. So thank goodness for that. But we need to unblock that, and our training should really be in nasal breathing. Even athletes, when they are taught to nasal breathe through that type of intense exercise, their performance is better. It takes time to learn because that's not how we're taught, right? So I know it can be frustrating as a parent to hear a bunch of people say different things. It is frustrating. So who are you supposed to believe? And it can sound like opinions, but if you're hearing that it's normal for mouth breathing and it's okay and there's nothing wrong with it, then they're uneducated in oral development, in airway space, in even how the brain gets oxygenated. So it all plays a role in that. So I understand your frustrations, but know that under no circumstance is mouth breathing normal. It is there as a safety mechanism when we need it. The other thing that came up is that I worked with someone through my recorded consult session, and this was, I think I recorded hers last week or 2 weeks ago. And she told me that her baby was born with Down syndrome, and nobody supported her in the hospital with bottle feeding. Nobody supported her with feeding at all. Even the lactation consultants that came in saw the bottle and gave no support. And I think it's really important to bring up that a lot of times people will say, yes, of course, everyone needs education and support for everyone, but that's not happening. And lactation consultants will say, well, we can help with the bottle, but not all of you are helping with the bottle. And I think that that's important to acknowledge. Just because a certain person feels like they can doesn't mean that it's happening. So yes, lactation consultants are perfectly capable of doing extra continuing ed and learning how to all the mechanism of bottle feeding and support their clients in that way. But that's not usually what's happening, and that's I think acknowledgement of that is huge. Hospitals say that they support all women and all dynamics, except they only have lactation in their classes listed in the hospitals. Um, and when I've called hospitals before and said, I would love to support you guys in your bottle feeding education, they say, oh, we talk about bottle feeding in the lactation class. That's not support. And because what if I was deciding to bottle feed from the beginning? I'm looking for support there. I'm not going to go to one that's called a breastfeeding class. I want to go to one that's specific for bottle feeding. So again, I think it's a shame that we push it aside so much. Yes, lactation needs more support. We all need more support. Anyone can and say, well, nobody gets support. We all need this and that. And it becomes a big who needs what more situation. But bottom line is lactation, people who breastfeed do get more support than people who choose the bottle feed, period. It's black and white in front of your face, right from when you look at prenatal classes. So, and lactation consultants, I think if they're going to um, fight against people who want to educate more on bottle feeding because they can do it, I think whether that plays into their ego or not isn't the issue, but then they need to do it as a whole and not take judgment when it's not done, because it's usually not done. Um, Babies who have medical conditions are usually put on the back burner the most, especially when those babies end up on a tube. If baby ends up on a tube, it's astonishing how much they're dismissed with feeding. It's like the medical teams just decide, well, they're not going to die, so I'm done. I don't need to do any more. Um, and parents are dismissed or discharged from the hospital on a tube, and nothing else is given to them. And so that is a whole nother realm of issues, I guess. But babies who have tubes are hugely underserved. And so I just wanted to bring that up in case anyone is listening. Um, Support from the recorded sessions is individualized. And I know a lot of people look at that and they think that, how could I possibly help? But I watch videos that you send to me. I read the history and the intake form, and I learn where you need the support. And it can make huge change. So if you're not getting in-person support from your area, that is something to consider. Okay. If you have questions, please drop them. I I don't think I left a question box up, so I don't have any questions to answer specifically from followers. The other thing that I want to talk about is the post about oral play and your provider who does the release or anything to do with the mouth. Um, Many people have been coming to me fighting oral aversion. What can I do? What can I do if the baby doesn't let me in their mouth? Because I talk about oral play all the time, right? The importance of oral play for every single baby in existence. Oral play for adults as well, right? You stretch, you move, your tongue should be sitting up on your palate, and if it's not, you do different activities to help strengthen it, to help its range of motion. And so we're all doing oral play. And so for babies, it helps so many different areas. But what happens if baby doesn't accept you in the mouth? Um, if baby is not, if you're tapping lips of a newborn and or up to, I would say, 2 months old, when they're simply laying there and you're in their face and you're communicating with them, if you tap their lips and they don't open, I'm immediately looking at trauma. And a lot of people get so upset when I say the word trauma, and it's not a negative thing towards you. It's something that people experience. And sometimes their perception of a particular event can look different than your perception of it. And babies have perceptions too, they interpret information differently. Just like children, in a specific scenario, an adult can have a completely different perception of a particular incident than what the child sees and interprets themselves. Infants are the same way. And so something happened in their mouth. It could have been a odd position in utero. It could have had nothing to do with you. It could have been that in labor, they carried lots of tension in their neck and now they're tight in their jaw. Like, it could be so many different things. But if your baby doesn't open their mouth for a tap, then I'm certainly not going in and starting oral play. And I want to backtrack. What's going on? If you tap the bottle or the breast, do they open? Okay, let's start there. Because sometimes it's that first feed that sets everything into a snowball effect. You have the nurses there. My gosh, I can remember my sister had her baby and I was in the room with her. She had an emergency C-section. She comes back in the room. They bring the baby in for the first time and she's still out of it. I can look at her and tell, like, her eyes are open and she's kind of going in and out. And the nurse brings the baby over and is like shoving the baby's head onto my sister's breast. And my sister's like laying there and she is not coherent. She's like looking at me and can you, can we give them some space? Um, the baby, if you just rest a baby on the belly, on the mom's chest, belly, and let them move and learn and explore. That is what baby needs when they're born, not to be manhandled. And so a lot of times we're looking at that as the first sign of oral trauma, and that can snowball. So we do have to take into consideration, if my baby doesn't open willingly, let's backtrack and see. But then there's ways to go around that and to create positive experiences with the mouth and to have them learn to open. And that is, I mean, that I have a section on that in the oral play guide. But we're taking it a step further into, okay, you know that your baby has a tongue tie, feeding is harder. And so you're taking them to doctor's appointments, and these doctors are holding the babies down. I remember when I was first taught how to do wound care and oral play is different. And the instructor told me to tuck the baby's arm underneath my leg, and they're sitting in between my legs, and do it that way so that they couldn't move. Okay. Now, wound care is necessary, right? To it's saying Okay. The providers think they have the right to just go into their mouth. The baby won't remember. It's not a big deal. When they're, a year old, they're never going to remember this. Even if cognitively they can't pull the memory and repeat it to you when they're older, their body still holds that trauma. And so that's a false. And that is the point of that post. We need to stop doing that. Where we do set boundaries and we do things that need to be done, we also need to acknowledge that they didn't feel good when that was being done. We need to be talking to them. We need to allow them to have some free movement. And we need to let them feel what they're feeling, acknowledge it. We need to take a step back as professionals and not just manhandle infants all the time because we think we have the right to. um, and I guarantee you our success rate of feedings and overall feeding experiences would be much better, much improved. What is your opinion on dream feeding? And yeah, so dream feeding is a compensation. My problem with dream feeding is that um, usually they s- it's a slow transition, but more and more feeds happen at night, less and less feeds happen during the day, and then baby gains no mouth brain gut connection, meaning something gets put into the mouth, the brain perceives it when it's full or when it's hungry into the gut, and it's a whole flow, and that is missed. So when we're starting solids, they don't understand the purpose. One, they're never hungry during the day because they eat all night long, and it creates a body problem. Now, dream feeds serve a purpose, but I certainly wouldn't let it go past one dream feed a night. If you're using one dream feed to catch up while you're working on why baby's not getting enough during the day, then let's do it. But if we do one dream feed and we're not working on what's going on in the day, and then they're eating less, a little bit less during the day, so we add another dream feed, and then they're eating a little bit less during the day, so we add another. Now we're having a problem, right? Because we didn't get, why are they not drinking enough during the day? So dream feedings, I know a lot of sleep consultants will use them to link cycles. um, but I always want to know why and what's going on. There's a reason we need that support. That support is necessary at times while we're doing the work to figure out the problem. And I have a post on dream feeding. I think it's in my YouTube. So if you just search dream feeding inside of my home page, it should pop up. But yeah, that's my opinion on dream feeding. My opinion. Uh because something like dream feeding is eh, that is what I see happening, and that is um I guess it's an opinion. Um because dream feeding is valid at some points, but it shouldn't be the end goal, and it shouldn't be the only thing that somebody offers you as a solution. Sort of like increasing flow rate of a bottle nipple. Yeah, it's needed sometimes, but we should be addressing what's happening elsewhere. Okay, you guys. If you don't have any other questions, if you have a question, drop it below and I will answer them. Um, if you don't have any questions, I will end this, and the code for the 50% off will be linked in the box. It is only good for 24 hours. I will see you guys later. Bye.